Well, hello and welcome back to the radio room. Got a TS-430s here on the bench today. This radio was, well, obviously it's from the 80s. It belonged to a emergency operations center. Is where I'm guessing it's lived most of its life. Local emergency operations center had an underground bunker. It used to be an old nuclear fallout shelter that's underground, and it had a small amateur radio set up in there for backup communications. And this radio, I don't even know when it went down there. It's in my local community, and it's been down there for as long as I can remember, which is over 25, 27 years that I can remember it being down there. The station got replaced back in I think it was 2012, 13, 14, somewhere in there. Got upgraded to a newer radio, dual band VHF, UHF capability, everything like that. And I can never remember. Well, I take that back. This radio may have been. I can maybe remember this radio being actually turned on in the past 27 years. It's been a while. I can guarantee you this radio has not been turned on in probably the last 10 years. The city was going through and cleaning stuff out, and I don't think this was actually ever necessarily considered city property. I'm not really sure. But the local amateur radio club was always set up to do emergency communications for the city if need be, and this is why that radio was down in this bunker. I just want to see if the thing works. Like I said, I don't think I can remember it being. It probably hasn't been turned on since it was replaced down in there. So I say we plug it in, see if the thing works. It's definitely seen better days. The rubber around the knob was cracked and broke. It's supposed to be on there like something like that. It might need to be glued back on there. If I remember correctly, these don't have a set screw, so you could potentially glue this back on here, and it would be just fine. It's not like something that you have to remove very often. You can tell it's got a little gap there, which probably is one reason why it cracked. It kind of shrank over time. I do have the original power supply. The TS-430 that was with it. It's sitting off to the side over here. Here's the cord. I'm going to plug it in. I've already checked the power supply. It did come on. I checked it with just a VOM, 13.89, 13.9 volts, which should be good. So I'm thinking let's plug it in. The power's off. Let's make sure everything's turned off and make sure it's not in send. It's not in Vox. Got the mic gain and the power carrier down just in case it, for some reason, happens to come on. Turn everything else off. I'm going to plug it in. We're going to flip the switch, and hopefully everything lights up and everything's good to go. I did pop the top earlier and looked inside things. And haven't looked at the bottom, but from the condition of what looked like in here, just from visual, I think the radio's still in good shape. And to tell you the truth, I think the thing has very little time on it. So the power supply is off. I'm going to go ahead and plug it in. If I can get all the little holes to line up, there we go. So it is plugged in. And step one, we'll turn the power supply on and make sure that none of the magic smoke comes out. Everything looks good so far. So we're going to turn it on if it turns on, we'll put a signal into it, and we might see if it'll transmit as well. So let's just see what happens. Check everything here. We're not in memory, so it should be in VFO. Volume's all the way down. RF is all the way, I'll turn it up. IF is centered. RIT is not on. Alright, let's see what happens. Well, that's a good start. In fact, I'm pretty sure that's probably the last frequency it was on, just about. A little scratchy on the volume control. And we do have static coming out of the speaker. VFO seems to tune. Appears to change modes. So let's see if this thing's going to let's see if we can't get a signal put into this thing. I'll just use a piece of test equipment over here, and we'll put a signal into the back of it on the frequency of choice, whatever we want to do. Let's make sure the bands change. Especially, let's make sure the bands change once we get into higher frequencies. Some of these 430s, it seems like when you get up in this area, if the VCOs are a little off, it'll just go to dots, basically, if I remember correctly. So I did go through all the bands. The needle does come up when I adjust the RF gain, so that's a good sign. Let's see if it will do something. So I'm going to turn on my test set here. I don't think I've made a video since I've gotten this, so I'm hoping the fan isn't too loud. This thing does make some noise. And it's going to take a moment to boot. Just pause a second while we're waiting for this thing to boot up. I can tell you nobody's gone in there and done the mod to get that extra digit on the display. So this thing might be pretty original. We'll see if it'll transmit out of band, see if it's had the Mars mod done to it. Go ahead and get the antenna hooked up to it. Whew. I think this thing's gonna work. I get the coax tightened down on it. Alright, we're sitting on 3939. We'll just do that. So let me get this set up for that. And let's see, 3.939 megahertz. And let's adjust our amplitude down to I'm going to turn it down here just as far as this thing will go, at 137. So let's see if this is going to be it. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to put it as an S9 reading. There it is. That's kind of playing a little weird. Oh, that's nice. I do have the signal generator. It's at an S9 signal. I am going to turn that down just a little bit. and come up on frequency. Sorry, I've been playing with an FT101 all day. The VFO is backwards to me right now. We do have a good tone. Let's see how far we can get down. Just barely hear the tone still. I can still hear the tone. I'm not sure if you can. Let me turn this up a little bit. I can just hear that tone. I'll turn this on and off so maybe you can tell. Off. On. That's negative 137 dBm. Probably not communications quality, but it would work. So let's come back up on this. I'm going to get this back up to an S9 setting. And I'm going to go to AM. Let me see if I can get some audio in this. A 1000 hertz tone. About 60% modulation. And turning the frequency down a little bit. But we do have an S9 signal. I'm going to say it works pretty good. Let's go ahead and turn that off for a minute. And let's see if we can't find out if it does transmit all right. So we have the carrier turned down all the way. I'm in AM, and I'm going to watch the meter. In fact, why don't I switch things around a little bit, and I'll get a camera on the test equipment, and we will be able to see about what the transmit power is. So give me just a moment. Okay, so I got you set up on this. We're going to go ahead and set our frequency to 3.939 megahertz, and that's what the radio's set up as well. Just making sure we got everything set up here pretty appropriately. Now let's go with the tight filter. And we'll start seeing if the radio will do some transmitting. So you're not going to be able to watch this while I'm doing this on the radio, but I'm going to basically just hit the send and see if it goes to transmit, and then I'll start raising the carrier power to see if it's going to put out any power. So going to send and raising the transmit power. And in AM, that's probably not a bad signal. I brought it down. So let's check that frequency again. That's pretty much on frequency too. Let me move this to actual frequency. 3.939076. I'm going to call that really, really good. In fact, I'm just going to tweak that with the tuning. I don't even know if I can get that close. that's well within specification. The digital display literally says 3939 kilohertz, so it's definitely on frequency. So that's a good thing. I'm going to move up a band. You know what? I'm going to check right here. I'm on 7.439. I'm going to find out if this thing will actually transmit. If it does, it's had the Mars mod. Let me move this to closer to the frequency that we're working at. So 7.439 megahertz. And it does transmit, so it has had the Mars mod done on it, because that would be out of band for a ham band. So I'm going to say this thing's probably pretty good. Let's see what the power output is when I do that. So full output power, that's 63 watts right there. I'm going to go to CW, and we'll bring the carrier up that way. 63 watts is what it's reading. And that starts getting some ALC right around there. That might be a little bit down on power output, or it could just be the way the ALC's set up. Or my meter may be reading a little bit wrong, but I think this radio can actually work. Let's check the other bands. Actually, I want to go back down to here. VFO does seem like it's a little sluggish when I'm going slow. Kind of jumps around a little bit. Might just need to be cleaned up a little bit. And I'm going to say that this thing probably might need a bandpass filter or a LPF board clean. It's only showing, and I might try this with a different meter here in a minute just to verify. But it's only showing 15 watts out on 80 or 75 meters. I'm going to come back. I'm going to come down into. Yeah, the VFO needs some help. It kind of has some spots in there that kind of jumps around on frequency a little bit. So it might need a little help in regards to the VFO. Okay, so I'm at 7268 right now. In the ham band. Let's find out what the about 60 watts. This might need a bandpass filter cleaner, or is it low pass filter? Anyhow, the relays in the filtering get dirty on these, and you can clean them. You just got to set it up with a resistor, and you basically put some current controlled voltage in through the antenna connector while you're switching through the bands rapidly, and it will clean those up a little bit generally. Okay, so let's go to 20 meters. Okay, that's interesting. Might have a few problems in this radio. That said it was 208 watts. Frequency's pretty close. I'm just inching up on the carrier here and watching that wattage. Oh yeah. That needs some help. He goes from nothing to a lot on that, so I'm gonna guess that could be a bandpass problem too. Let's if I can get there. I'm trying to change the frequency on the radio here, and it starts coming down and then it jumps back up. Okay. I think this radio mostly needs a good cleanup. Let's see what this band does. Yeah, it's almost like the ALC isn't working. Let's go to 10 meters. Once again, this is in CW. At dead spot, and then it jumps way up. So it probably could use a good cleaning up, some alignment, maybe a few other things. PA doesn't feel like it's getting warm. So it probably could use a little help in that regard. But it's working. I'm half tempted to kind of hook it up to an antenna and see how well it receives. So let me set that up. We'll just kind of play with the receiving right now. Let me get it on somewhere that I know we probably have something going on. Wow, this VFO. Let me show you guys what I'm talking about here. Give me just a second. I'll reposition the camera. Alright, so watch the display. I'm just turning this. And it's not doing too bad going up. And it has a little skip here and there. But you go down. See? I'm not getting very far very fast. Kind of jumps back and forth, so it's gonna need some VFO cleaning, tuning, or something. Definitely got some problems on there. But yeah, let me pause a second. Let me get an antenna hooked up to this thing and see what it sounds like listening on the air. Okay, got the thing hooked up to an antenna now. It's receiving. Let's go to lower sideband. IF shift seems to work. Well, if I can never get down anywhere. Oh, we're going up. Well, let's see if I can find another way to get down there. Seems to go up fairly well. Let's get back into the ham band here.
Wouldn't have done that unless he'd offered you. before I reached the control room deck, everyone began laughing apparently at me. I quickly discovered I left the seat of my pants hung to the top of the sail. Once everything settled out, I skipped out. Jimmy, but
Well, it receives. It's got some dirty controls in it, that's for certain. Well, it ain't dead. It definitely needs some work. Get some controls cleaned up. Find out why it just erratically has some power problems, which a lot of that could be that the pot for the carrier is dirty. Like I said, I don't think this thing's been on in 10 years, so it could have a few other problems. I don't feel any extraneous heat from it. Let me pull the top here. Five-volt regulator is toasty. Got a little bit on the 8-volt. Yeah, I think it's worth fixing. Needs to be cleaned up and tested out, and probably an alignment done on it, but it didn't blow up. I'll go ahead and turn it off, and there it is. Well, it's got a few issues, a few gremlins. It's probably a little angry it hasn't gotten used in so long. But, yeah, we'll see if it can be back on the air again sometime. I just happened to pull this out of a shelf. I've had the radio over here at the radio room for a little while after it got donated back to the club. And just wanted to take a look at it, see if it even turned on or not. And it does receive. Mostly functional. Shows signs of transmit. I think it just needs a good cleaning up. And maybe a little alignment, check a few things in it, and it'll be back among the living and ham radio. Thanks for stopping by the radio room. We'll catch you next time.